John, where do you want, you're moving to Texas? Okay, great. I can help you get to Texas. Let's meet. You're going to have some kind of, you're going to have some kind of questions that pop up of like, well, why should I meet with you? I got 40 other people call me or 100 other people calling me. But if I say, having sold 2 homes in the last 5 days that failed to sell like yours, curious, when would you like to meet so we can give you a second opinion and help you get where you're going? Oh, I don't know, blah, 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 push you off, kind of thing. Say, listen, I've sold 45 homes since the beginning of the year that all failed to sell with other realtors. They all have sold signs. Would you like a sold sign? I'm delivering credibility and that they can't, that's catching their attention, because if I'm not just a guy selling real estate, I'm a guy that sells a lot of real estate that fails to sell with other realtors. So I know what I'm doing. So let's just meet.
Welcome, everybody, to the Beyond the Sale podcast. This week, I'm so excited to have Adam Prather on. Adam is a top-notch realtor in Phoenix, Arizona. I think he's in Gilbert and Chandler, to be specific. I think he sells in Scottsdale, Arizona as well. Adam, so excited to have you on the podcast and share your knowledge with everybody in our audience here. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so Adam, I want to, we've known each other for a long time, and we kind of gone through this learning process and becoming the realtors that we are together. And I'm really excited to kind of share your expertise. I've learned so much from you, just from script knowledge and the way that you became a salesperson and us role playing together. So I want to start there. So, let's just start on how you got into real estate. Why did you choose real estate? And then also, now, was that a good choice? And is it a good vehicle for you? Yeah.
Yeah, good questions. Yeah, well, I've got a long background in financial sales. So as I was getting into college, I jumped into banking. I was a teller, selling bank accounts and credit cards. And it was there that I learned like values-based selling, making sure that the product you were selling actually was meeting a need from somebody. And that just fit with my value system. I didn't want to be pushing things to people that they didn't like. And so quickly that evolved into moving into financial planning. And so I did that for quite a few years, and started selling financial plans, advising people on investments and their retirement plans and things like that. And it was there where I learned a lot more like advisory type skills, where I'm making recommendations, but the client's making the decision, but not just that straight sales, where oh, you want to buy a stock? Okay, I'll buy you a stock. Here's how much do you want to buy? Versus well, do you think I should buy that stock? When do you think I should sell that stock? Moving beyond just transactional relationships. And I'd learned that in my financial planning career. And then just randomly, I was really involved with a bunch of college kids at my church, and I like helping people, and with all different facets of life, and so that was an opportunity. My church was like, hey, do you want to come be a pastor here? And I said, yeah, sure, let's do it. And I did that for a little while, and then the opportunity there kind of closed, and instead of continuing down that road, I decided just to move back into financial sales. And real estate was an opportunity to get back in really quick, because it only takes 90 hours of education, 2 tests, and you're off to the races. And so jumped in. That's been about a little over 8 years now. And yeah, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I met some of my closest friends like yourself, and have made way more money doing this than I did anything else. So
yeah, which that's great. And I think brings up a good point. It's not transactional sales but rather connecting with people, understanding what the need is, helping them to discover what they ultimately are trying to accomplish, and that's really what it boils down to.
right.
So from there, you got started with we met with Mike Ferry. I know a lot of like great realtors and great people in the investing space as well. a lot of them get started with Mike Ferry. How did you get drawn to Mike Ferry, and what turned? I mean, why did you go that route?
Yeah, so basically, I joined a Remax office because the guy that sold me my first house was in Remax, and when I was there, he told me he would kind of mentor me, and after I helped my sister buy a house, which is usually what a realtor's first transaction is, somebody related to friends and family, right? I was like, okay, what next? And he's like, I don't know. He's like, you just gotta kind of keep in touch with people. And I was like, there's no way I can build a business off of just keeping in touch with people. And there was a guy at the office who's doing about 100 deals a year, and he was with Mike Ferry. And so I thought to myself, let's see what this is all about. And you're right, Mike Ferry does attract a lot of big players and a lot of big markets because he's been around forever. And I think part of his success is due to the quality of people that are within his organization that continue to provide a rounded out support to people who are joining, not just the things that he's sharing himself, but the network that he created.
Yeah, and the same thing for me. My dad had a brokerage. I knew the top agents in the brokerage were a part of Mike Ferry,
Hmm.
and so immediately when I got started, I couldn't afford it, but I started with somebody else, and as soon as I can afford Mike Ferry coaching, I went over there. And
Yeah,
you're right. And I think it's the quality of people ultimately once you get in, and the relationships that you make, and the people that you're interact with is the value that he has. Yeah, that for
right.
there for sure, for
And I
sure.
think one of the biggest things early on that I realized was I was like, wow, these people are making big decisions quickly, decisively, and they're winning with it. And I was like, I just was drawn to that. And, just the matter of fact attitude, the mindset shift that was there for me in terms of moving from just really stuck in analysis, painstakingly making decisions so slowly, and then getting in and just taking massive types of action, and having the support and credibility of all the people around me was super helpful early in my career.
Yeah, yeah, I love that too. It's like for me, it's like it was so cool to see people get on the phone, make phone calls, take control of their own destiny, and convert and make money. And
Right,
there was a process there that
right.
that was so cool. So like I remember us getting into it, and where we met. You were really, and your market was there was a lot of that there. But I remember the first year or the second year you were into expired listings.
Right.
And I learned a lot from you on this, and I think you still do a good amount of expired listings.
I do.
Why is that such a good lead source? And why are you drawn to do that? And why do you still do it? Because I think I backed off a little bit from doing expired listings.
Right.
But so how has that been? Why is that a good lead source for you?
Um, I think simply speaking, it's I can make a phone call this morning, go on a listing appointment this afternoon, and have a listing that's signed tonight that sells in 3 days and I get paid in 30 days at a full 6% commission. And there's nothing that fast. Nothing
Sure.
that fast. And I think if you look back, I think if you've ever done like circle prospecting or even internet, like Facebook leads or pay per click or anything like that, you realize that when these leads come in, the very first question you're asking yourself is where are they at on the sales funnel? Are they way early in the decision making process or are they way late? And in my market, average price is about $500,000, and so if you expect somebody to make a $500,000 decision, quickly from start to finish, that's a really tall order. People have to think about it. They have to know what they're doing. They have to do their research. I mean, people will spend lots of time doing that. With an expired, they've already gone through that entire process, have some point of frustration, have fired their realtor or let their contract expire. And so I know virtually all of them, their time frame is now. So I can go in and so that saves tons of time. Now you
Yeah,
may have some markets that you don't have as a lot of expireds, and there's some that you do. In high volume markets, you typically do in Phoenix. So there's always a regular rhythm of expireds. But that's why I like the source, because it's the turnaround is super quick.
yeah, and getting into an expired listing, it takes it obviously like anything, it takes some work and some skill and to learn how to do it, learn the cadence of it, learn the whole
Right.
process. What's the secret to? I mean, obviously there's obviously practice, role play, all that stuff, but what's the secret with an expireds to someone who's good at them and someone that is not good?
That's a good question.
Yeah,
I'll I have a couple thoughts. Um I would say the main thing is going to be somebody that you have to be growing into an advisory style of sales.
okay,
You have to be able to speak knowledgeably. You have to be able to speak in a non-ego way about yourself and be able to set the table that you are the one that can do the job, and you understand the market, and you understand all of the things that are going on. And one of the ways that we do that is through using credibility in our language. Um, you know, I'll share a lot of stories about similar situations for those clients, and that immediately starts to connect with the client that I'm not just this guy that's looking for their listing and looking to make a quick buck, but I know what to do, and I want it, and I know how to help them. So um, that'd be one thing. So the scripting, how you're delivering these things, it needs to have an advisory type nature. It's not just, John, where do you want you're moving to Texas? Okay, great. I can help you get to Texas. Let's meet. You're gonna have some kind of you're gonna have some kind of questions that pop up of like, well, why should I meet with you? I got 40 other people call me, or 100 other people calling me. But if I say, having sold 2 homes in the last 5 days that failed to sell like yours, curious, when would you like to meet so we can give you a second opinion and help you get where you're going? Oh, I don't know, you know, blah blah blah, push you off, kind of thing. Say, listen, I've sold 45 homes since the beginning of the year that all failed to sell with other realtors. They all have sold signs. Would you like a sold sign? I'm delivering credibility, and that they can't that's catching their attention, because if I'm not just a guy selling real estate, I'm a guy that sells a lot of real estate that fails to sell with other realtors. So I know what I'm doing. So let's just meet. Um, I'm building that credibility in every conversation that I'm having with the client.
and it's what we talked about earlier. Is like you're solving their problem. Like I mean, you're advising them, and they have a problem. You're solving it. You're the answer to their problem, and obviously they can't get their home sold. They want to move, and you're the solution. And like you said, you have the plan. So yeah, in your once you list the property, it sells in 3 days, and the properties it gets sold. So it's not you have the trust in yourself that also you can get this done for them.
Right. Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So when someone jumps on the phone, I know like a lot of people with expireds, you call and obviously they're the most angry lead source, right?
Right.
So and it doesn't have to be. I know I just heard something like the objections that you get is in direct proportion to the quality of your presentation. Right.
Hmm.
So and you probably it makes a lot of sense with regards to expireds. But I know when you call an expired, they might say, F you or like you're like, I'm not interested. Like, why are you calling me? There's so many people calling me. Um, ha, how do you overcome that objection and get to a point where you can actually kind of get the walls to come down and start
Hmm.
to have this conversation, this advisory conversation. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think it's the words that you use, and then it's some basic skills like repeating and approving. It's about tonality matching. It's about matching the pace of the conversation with someone. because there's nothing more frustrating with someone when you're trying to shove them off the phone and they talk really slow or they have a very long script that they're trying to get out and you're just waiting for them to finish. And if they've had a dozen conversations, they're just going to cut you off and hang up on you. My old coach used to say, it's you want to create curiosity in the client. So it's like I tell the guys that work on my team it's about moving somebody from suspicion to curiosity. As a salesperson, society is taught to be suspicious of us. So I want to move them to curiosity, and if I can get them to curiosity, then I can have a breakthrough. And so that's where, if somebody's like, why are there so many people, or, like, gosh, I've been so many people calling me, I'm just going to empathize with them, and I'll say, gosh, that's awful. Curious if I could bring you a highly qualified buyer in the next 30 days, would that create a problem for you? And so so I meet them where they're at, and then I quickly get out something that's potentially of interest to them. And then obviously based on their response at that time, I just need to be prepared for all the variety of responses and then move forward, which is where your scripting obviously can come in and having all of that internalized and understanding, where they're coming from.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's really good. And so, I would say that you started from, and we both did started from a sales background. We understood real estate as a sales business, and we worked on sales
Right.
scripts, objection handlers, all that kind of stuff. Why? So, if you did it again, would you do it the same way? And why do you think, if yes, or whatever your answer is, why is it important to start there? And I know that we were recently talking, and I think the market and marketing is changing completely as
Right.
in the last year, 2 years or so. Would you do it the same way? Would you start from the same spot?
Yeah. 100% I would, because even as things have shifted into more text messaging or automation, digital advertising, the messaging is all the same. I have the guys on my team will have, we'll be talking on, like, we'll be role playing on the phone, and then they'll get somebody that texts them and they'll say, okay, what do I say? And they expect this whole other batch of wording or messaging or whatever. And I literally tell them, say the exact things, text what you would say to the client.
Right,
Just
right.
text it and it'll work. And so you have to know like how to connect with people. I heard somebody say that it's not as much the speed to lead is important, but it's now speed to relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
you have to, you're, through the approach, and Mike, and you get this from Mike Ferry too, but you get it from a lot of good salespeople, which is like, help others and yourself achieve your goals. Like, if I don't keep both of our goals in mind, then I'm going to be off track. So if I'm going down that road that I want to help them and I want to help myself at the same time, and like you said earlier, be solutions oriented, and that's going to help me take that advisory type position with them. But then if I don't know what to say and I don't know how to convey the emotion, the excitement, the results, the confidence, the power in what I'm doing with my voice and with the way I talk with them, ultimately I'm going to lose them even if I get an appointment, through automation or whatever. You have to have that as a baseline. And so if I don't have that, I don't know how to talk to people. I don't know how to create messaging. I don't know how to handle a situation that's falling apart mid deal. Because all the skills I use to get the client, I use to keep the client.
Yeah, I love that, and I completely agree with that. And so the evolution to getting there, um, how do you get there? Like, so with your team, like, so it goes from suspicious to curious.
Hmm.
There's role playing scripts, and I kind of tell people that work for me and we coach and we talk with, is that the kind of scripts falls away at some point. Like
Right.
you're going through the script, you role play the script, but then the script falls away, and you can you kind of can be you, and you can kind of and you that just you understand you understand what the client needs and how to service the client and how to talk with them and understand what they're looking for. But how do you get from point A to point B in that process? And
Yeah.
also how long does that process take?
Yeah. So when somebody starts with me brand new, one of the things I'll tell them is I have scripts and I'm going to teach you what to say. I'm going to teach you how to say it. Now, I want you to commit 100% to doing it that way. And the analogy I give them is it's like learning a dance. Learn my dance, and then once you've mastered my dance, you can start improvising a bit with your own personality and your own style. But if you can't master my dance, you're not going to know how to do the improvisation. So learn this, get the scripts memorized. And I think that a lot of this comes back to the motivation of the agent because there's no reason. I mean, there like you go back to elementary school, like we memorized stuff in the course of a week. You had spelling words. You had um, you know, maybe in language arts you had like performance or whatever. Like you had to memorize stuff. Like if you really put your mind to it, like that's the most important thing. Have a set of scripts that you get memorized, and whether you use Mike Ferry, Tom Ferry, blah blah blah, whatever, it doesn't matter. As long as they're scripts from somebody that's been able to use them to be successful, then you're like get them memorized. I don't think that should take more than a week, and then just be continually embedding them in your mind because if you're not using them, you're going to lose it. So you need to be constantly reviewing that once you have them memorized. So that I think you can get done within a week. Then you have to start using them in live situations because you're going to not know why they're worded the way they are until you start using them and seeing them work on your behalf. Once you get it memorized and you start using it, then you need to focus on your tonality. How are you delivering it? Where do you create dramatic pauses? How do you like making sure you're using a downswing and understanding how that contributes to authority? The, in some ways, it's about embodying the emotion that you're trying to convey. And so there's little things that you have to learn. Like one I think that is extremely powerful, especially if somebody's rushing you, is learning how to slow the conversation down. And John, for example, in this moment, if I start talking dramatically and slowly and I'm engaging, I start pushing all of the other things that are in your mind out, and you're hanging on every word I say. And that is so powerful. That's so powerful. And you can do that with your scripts. So just like I did in the example when I said, oh my gosh, you're getting tons of phone calls. Curious if I was able to bring you a highly qualified buyer in the next 30 days, I'm picking it up, but then I slow it down. Would that create a problem for you? Now they don't know what's happening, but I just completely pushed out everything in their mind, and then they're now focused on the answer to that question.
Love it. And then, so obviously we're always continuing learning. I mean, we have to always continue to learn. But to get from point A to point B, and because if someone was starting this and wanting to understand how long this is going to take, I mean,
Right.
we've been doing this for 10 years. And I don't know, I role play with my team every day.
Hmm.
And however, how long does that take? I mean, obviously, I mean,
Yeah, so I
this is
think
something,
you
this is a
could probably
lifestyle.
like
Yeah.
yeah, I think the basics you could probably get down within a couple 3 weeks, and then it's going to be doing it with somebody that's successful is going to create huge success because you're going to get constant feedback about what you need to do or what you could have done differently. Also, all the while hearing somebody in different types of situations is going to be extremely valuable because you don't know what you don't know, you know. And so, I'd say within 3 or 4 months, you could get up to, probably being better than 99% of the people in your marketplace. If you do something like that. And if you're not on a team like you have, John, or like I have, where we provide that, then it's, creating that yourself with other people that you know can do that.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
I think yeah. So I think within 2 to 3 months you could be getting there. But don't be surprised if you set appointments in your first week
Love
because
that.
the scripts are
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah, committing to it, right? So if this is the way you want to, I don't know how else you do real estate if you don't know how to talk to people. But if
Right.
committing to getting better, it's a craft, getting better every day, and it's so interesting. It's like the level that you take it to.
Hmm.
Some people like this. I know everyone takes it to a different level, but it's like the level that you take it to, and you're gonna get paid. You're getting paid
Hmm.
a lot of money. Means how much money do you want? Also heard something pretty interesting recently. It was pretty simple. It's like if you want it, why don't you have it? Right?
Mm.
If you want it, well then why don't you have it? It's like,
Right.
well then you don't want it enough, right? If you don't have
Right.
it. Right, right.
Right.
So
I agree.
you know what I mean? Shifting gears a little bit. So we a couple years back, you made a choice you wanted to move to luxury real estate. I know you
Right.
changed brokerages to luxury to be more aligned with a luxury brand.
Right.
I know that process there because we talked about through it. It was it didn't happen overnight. It wasn't clicking. It didn't click off for you overnight. However, now that I see you and see some of the stuff you're selling, you're doing higher end real estate. How is that different than doing where you were before? Also, if someone wanted to make a shift from doing, say if they're doing the average marketplace price to luxury price, how do they do that? What was the biggest shift for you?
Yeah, and full transparency, I'm still making that shift. I feel like
Okay.
we've made a lot of traction with it, but I'm still learning a lot about that. Um, I think that it's imperative to take an advisory approach at the luxury level, um, because and then it's assuming it's just coming in with a couple assumptions that will change your tonality and change your approach a bit with the clients. So I assume that if somebody can afford a luxury home, there's a bit of education, a bit of sophistication that comes with that client, and so respecting that kind of relationship, that sophistication, and is important. They're also didn't get there by making stupid financial decisions. So, when they ask questions like, should I put my home on the market right now or should I put my home on the market in the fall? You better have a pretty good answer to that because they're looking for somebody that can guide them. They're not looking for somebody that can just get their home up on the market, you know. They want somebody that knows what they're doing and is going to be able to advise them. And the and so that so if you were building from an advisory approach early, you're already going to be set up for those people. The other assumption that I go in with is that they're making a discretionary sale or a move. They don't have to do this, and I go right at that, and I because a lot of experiences that they come out of are from people that treat them like they're desperate to sell. You know, well, John, you got to move to Texas, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, then why are you messing around and not accepting this offer? Like, we got to take it. Like they don't want to be pushed or pressured like that. They want the information and they want to be able to make the decision that makes sense. And and so that's important as well. And so I tell in my presentation, I'll comment on that if I think it's appropriate, where I'll say, now listen, I take a more of an advisory type approach. I understand you're not desperate to sell like most people with money or homes of this size. You're not over a barrel trying to sell the home. You just ultimately you want a process that's going to help you make the most money in a in a comfortable way. So that's what I'm here to do. I want to give you a clear picture of what that's going to do, and then whatever you decide, I support you 100%.
Love
And
that.
and then I'll go through the presentation with them.
Yeah,
Um,
and so giving them the option, making it about them, um, coming from the advisory role, as well as the language that you're using is rehearsed and scripted,
mhm.
um, and practiced, because we only get one shot at it too, right?
Right.
So that's important.
Yeah,
Um,
you'll lose their curiosity much quicker on a stumble than you would with somebody they're probably a little bit more forgiving at a lower price point.
Right. And you know, and the thing, the people that push back against like scripts and that sort of thing, and I don't, what we're trying to do ultimately is just help the client, like you said, is helping the client get what they want. And we know how to do that. We do it every day, 100 times, 250 times a year. However, like you said, I love that going from suspect to curiosity. We have to get them curious about that. We have to also come with credibility, let them understand it.
Hmm.
But obviously, I'm suspecting that working working with the clientele of the luxury clientele is the same thing. The client that's $100,000 house wants to hear the same thing the same way or very similar. We want it
Right.
to be about them and be helped and be
Right.
supported and
I would
100%.
say
Yeah.
I would say that the skill level, like the skills that you have to succeed at luxury will work even better at lower price points. Um, but you may not know what you don't know if you're only selling at the lower price points. And and I don't say that to hinder anybody's mentality because there is a way to explore that. Like you have to ask yourself the question like what intimidates you? And so one of the things I'll tell the guys on my team is like get into these houses, get into these neighborhoods. So if you're going to go into a guard gated community and you've never been in there, but you're going to show a buyer in there and you're going to meet a listing agent at the house, you need to know what that experience is like. So either get on a broker tour, go to an open house, drive up to the guard gate, see what the experience is going to be. Because if I lead somebody to say, "Hey, I'll meet you at the house," and then they get stuck at the guard gate, and that's your first experience, you're gonna look like a fool. And then that's gonna totally throw everything off. So understanding that, and then even like the quality of what you're buying. Do you really understand the difference between a $2 million house and a $500,000 house? Like, what is the difference? Can you walk in and basically share with the client exactly those what those differences are? And it might be the flooring, it might be the appliances, it might be the quality of the build. You don't know what you don't know, so get in there and find out.
Yeah, and it's huge, right? Because if you can't, it's like 80% of this is just conveying and having the confidence to and do know what you know, right?
Hmm.
And then if they feel that they understand that, I mean it's not it's just kind of being able to answer the question, advising them, giving them the right information, and also standing there and being that person that they feel like they can trust. I think that's a lot of times with newer agents. It's like they don't know what they don't know. Almost that's kind of like why, joining a team, like someone was talking to me in the gym the other day, it's like, hey, like why should I join? Why would I want to join a team? Well, it's like, well, you're gonna have, you might in the first year sell 3 or 4 homes, 5 homes, 6 homes, 7 homes. However, with the team, you might sell 25 homes or have an opportunity to sell 25 homes the
Hmm.
first year.
Right.
And that experience, because you're doing more, even though you're making the same amount of money because you're selling more, or even if you're making less with a lesser split, you still have the more opportunities and more experiences to gain
Right.
more trust in yourself. So
Right.
so it's super valuable just from that standpoint, just to be able to have that experience. So
Yeah, I had a
these men.
guy, there's a lady that told me like I was in a recruiting meeting with her and I said, "How many sales conversations do you have in a week?" And she was like, maybe two. And then I turned over to a guy that's on my team and I said, "How many sales conversations do you have?" And he'd been with me for a year and a half and he's made $100,000 both years. Or he's on track for 100,000 this year already. And he said, "I talk to 60 to 80 people a week." And and I looked at her and I said, "Can you see how he's going to be much more familiar with these conversations. He's going to be much more familiar with the questions he gets back, the dynamics of these conversations by having 60 to 80 conversations a week versus two. What's his growth curve look like versus somebody that's only doing it twice a week?
Correct. And plus having someone at the helm that he's listening to, understands, has a proven track record, and he can learn from and get better from, and so many other things. But then have that guidance there is super valuable. I mean, people pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for that. For
Yeah,
every,
we did.
we did, we did. It's true. So building a team leads me to the question is like, why? What's the transition look like? Because I mean, everybody gets into real estate. I hear everybody like, I want to build a team. Like, and that's the goal, to build a team.
Right.
However, I think it's like not necessary. It's a choice. Yeah, I want to build a team. However, there's a process to it,
Right.
to how it works. And what do you think the process looks like? What did it look like for you? And then if somebody wanted to do that, if that was their goal, what do you think they have to have in place in order to have a team?
Right. Right. Well, I think it's exciting going into it, but just like any other service, there's, if you get into the coaching on like teams right out of the gate, you have to realize you're going to get sold there too. And you've got to understand what are those component pieces and weave through, kind of wade through the BS on that as well. So I would say that let's see, there's probably two things as a team leader that I have learned over the last well, it's almost 3 years now that we've been building a team. Number one, the team leader has to have a commitment to leadership. That is your new main role. And if you abandon that or you abdicate that to somebody else, you're not going to have the success that you're hoping to have. A lot of people like to build a team because they think they're going to be able to set it and forget it. That's not the case. If you're going to build a team, it is now you are taking on an additional role, especially if you stay in production like I am currently. It's addition to what you're already doing, and that's the commitment to leadership.
Okay.
And then the second thing is a commitment to creating opportunity, and not just by creating leads, but creating growth, creating other avenues of expansion for people within your team. On the sales side, on the operations side, it's creating future opportunity for your team and continuously casting the vision for that. And there's quite a big learning curve for that. And so if you've never been in a leadership role before, you need to very quickly get into those leadership books and leadership classes and things like that, because it's not just, do your job. And then if you don't do your job, you're out. That's the quickest way to overwhelm yourself and destroy the morale of your team.
hmm So the process, so that if someone starting is first is kind of having the experience of yourself to have something to teach somebody for
Right.
expansion, personal development for somebody, and then from there, being able to translate it to somebody.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And as a salesperson, you're probably pretty good at that. It's just a commitment to continue to do that.
yeah.
And then I think it's also about, building with the right people. I use an EOS framework, Entrepreneur Operating System by Gino Wickman, and that not doesn't just, create business like meetings and reports and things like that. It insulates and protects my business. It protects the vision. It protects the direction of the team. And having some kind of system like that in place is going to be really important. Um, and and then I would say being really crystal clear on what you want. Because you might go into it thinking, oh man, I want to have the biggest team in my market. Well, that's fine. You just need to get crystal clear on what it is. And then you're going to very quickly learn what that is going to require of you. And I realized after doing this is I didn't necessarily, we had a year where it was like, okay, we're going to add 14 agents this year. And then very quickly I was like, that's not what I want. because now I'm spending tons of time nurturing and coaching these agents, managing their motivations and et cetera, et cetera, where, I want something, I want people that are a bit more high powered, a bit more motivated, a bit more excited to do what we're doing and bought in. I'd rather have a few of those types of people and make a huge impact in my market than grow very quickly over a short period of time.
Yeah. So good point. And then with hiring those types of agents, also finding those types of people, as well as
Mm.
hiring staff for your team. I know you've been doing this for 3 years now. You've had a lot of success with that, and
I
a
guess
lot
that's
of
relative.
relative, right, right. But that's yeah. But I guess the success is that you're continuing to do it and learn. But what have you learned in that process of hiring? I know that a lot of people struggle with that, and I also heard something recently that said, nobody's good at it. Nobody's good
Right.
at it. Like it actually made me feel a lot better. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
so nobody's good at hiring. So, but what have you found to be successful when hiring and so looking for so maybe go at like a staff position as well as a realtor that you want on your team.
Yeah, and I would say they're both the same approach. The recruiting in some ways is same for both the process, and some of this ties back to the EOS system that we use because in EOS there's also clarity about core values, and core values are used virtually in every decision that you're making, and so um, when we hire somebody, we're looking for a good core values fit already. We're not looking for somebody that is aspiring to have the core values that we have. We need somebody that's already demonstrating those core values already where they are. And so all the interview questions are surrounding discovering that indirectly what their core values are. So that's important. Um, and then within EOS, there's kind of a three little statement thing where they said it's like, do they get it? Do they want it? Do they have the capacity? Get it, want it, capacity. We are always every quarter we're asking that question about the people on the team. Do they get the role that they're in? Do they want the role that they're in? And do they have the mental, emotional, physical skill capacity for the role? And you need to have what EOS talks about having the right people in the right seats. And so I've had people that were agents on my team that are now on the operations side because it was a better seat for them. I've had people that were in different roles and they were a great core value fit, but there was a gap on one of those get it, want it capacity issues, and we found a role that was there.
I love that.
And so
Yeah, and you brought that up to me recently, and I forgot about that. And I had this. I put that into play, and you know what I found that was really successful with that get it, want it capacity is, and I'm not sure if you guys do this, but I did it, and I think it was great because the staff member on my team like really understood. So they filled it out. They filled out get it, want it capacity, right? We filled it out get it, want it capacity, and then you shared it with each other
right,
of like and it was so apparent that she had no idea the way that we saw her in that role, and she saw it a completely different way than we saw it. And when we were able to communicate that and share that, she was like, aha, I
right,
don't I don't I don't get it. I don't get it. Like I thought I got it, but I don't get it the way they think that they get it, you know?
right, right. And that's why I
So
think it's imperative to have a system like an EOS because it's going to bring those things up, quarterly reviews. Um, you know, you do a self-analysis and I'll do an employee analysis. Like we do that. I do that on the agents, I do that on the staff, I do that on myself, we do that on other people that are in our executive team. And that's definitely going to protect your business and keep things moving forward.
love that. Love that. Well, Adam, I know I don't want to take, we're almost to an hour here. I don't want to take up your time. I really appreciate the insight. I love the interpretation always. I tell you that of what you're doing, of what a realtor is, what a team leader is. It's clear. And I appreciate that you coming on here and sharing it with everybody. And thanks so much. Where can people find you? In your how to if someone wants to connect with you, maybe ask you questions or anything, what's the easiest way to connect with you?
Um, Yeah, I mean, my that's a good question. Um,
Mhm.
you know, I mean, any of the social media sites. It's Prather Home Team. If you search Prather Home Team, you can find me on any of those. You can DM me through any of those platforms. My website, adamprather.com, is another place, and yeah, be happy to help.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam. I really appreciate you. Thanks for coming on again, and talk with you soon.
All right, man.
Okay.
Peace.
Bye.